Here's a backwards paradox about salt and ice. Salt melts ice. You probably knew that. But here's the weird part. Salt by itself doesn't melt anything. Salt is a solid. How does a solid melt another solid? And here's the even weirder part. Salt actually raises the melting point of ice, not lowers it. So how does it melt ice at all? Most people think salt lowers the freezing point of water, so ice melts because the melting point drops below zero. That sounds right, but it's backwards. Salt actually raises the melting point of ice. Yes, really. So if salt raises the melting point, why would it cause ice to melt? Here's what's actually happening. When you sprinkle salt on ice, the salt dissolves in the tiny layer of liquid water on the ice's surface. That liquid water exists because ice is always melting slightly, even at freezing temperatures. Molecular chaos at the surface means some ice becomes water. When salt dissolves in that water, it does two things. 1. It lowers the freezing point of that liquid water, so the water-salt mixture can stay liquid even below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. 2. That lower freezing point means the ice and the salty water are no longer in equilibrium. The ice wants to melt to match the new freezing point, so ice melts to try to dilute the salt and raise the freezing point back up. But as long as you keep adding salt, there's always more dissolving, the freezing point keeps dropping, and the ice keeps melting. But here's the truly bonkers bit. Salt lowers the freezing point, which means it prevents water from freezing. It doesn't make ice melt faster. Ice melts because it's trying to dilute the salt. The melting is a side effect of the salt trying to dissolve. This is why salt doesn't work on very cold ice. If it's colder than about -15 degrees, the salt can't dissolve fast enough, and the ice won't melt. And this is also why salt on roads in winter only works when the temperature is close to freezing. When it's way colder, salt does basically nothing. There's also an energy problem. Melting requires energy, heat. When ice melts, it absorbs heat from its surroundings. That's why ice and salt mixtures get so cold. They're pulling heat from the environment, sometimes dropping to -20 degrees. It's endothermic. The ice melts, but the whole mixture freezes everything around it. So salt doesn't melt ice. The ice melts itself, trying to dilute the salt. And the process is so cold it freezes everything else. That's why salt works and why it's so weird.